In this video today, I'm going to share with you my top 7 Waves hidden gem plugins. And what those are just basically plugins that not many people talk about, but they're actually really useful and valuable. These are plugins I find myself using over and over again. They're just fast and easy to use and sound good. And if you need more free plugins for mixing or mastering your music, I also have a free downloadable guide in the description. It has literally like every kind of plugin and some different samples that you can download totally for free. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely go and check that out in the description as well. Okay, let's hop into a session and show you how to use these plugins to make your music sound better. So the first plugin I have to share with you today is called Debreath by Waves, and it does exactly what it sounds like. It literally will attenuate or remove the breaths out of a vocal. This is awesome if you do hip hop or if you just have a really breathy vocalist. So let me just show you how to use this plugin. You basically just have these few options here. The reduction allows you to dial in how much you want to lower the breath by, and then you have 2 different threshold parameters. One is for the breath and one is for what's called energy. Breaths have less energy, so you want to set this above the dip of the energy plot, and then for the breath you just want to make sure that you're biting into the top of it. Alright, so let's try to remove this breath right here. This one's really loud. Okay, so all we need to do is lower this threshold in the breath one so that the breath peak jumps above it. Like right there is good because there's the breath. And then we're going to raise up this energy plot so that valley is below that threshold. There we go. So now it's able to identify that breath, and because we have the reduction set to infinity, it's literally going to remove the entire breath. But if you want to leave some of the breath in there, you can just raise this up. And if you want to just listen to the breaths, like when you're dialing in these settings, you just click this breath monitor button. And then you could hear just the breath coming out. It's kind of funny. Yeah, it sounds kind of ridiculous. That's okay. And if you think it sounds too obvious, like it's taking too much away and there's like silence, you can just click this room tone button. All that does is add some white noise underneath that to help blend in the attenuated breath. Now, another plugin that I think is just an absolutely incredible plugin that not a lot of people talk about is Waves C6. I have a lot of videos on how I use this plugin on a vocal chain, so if you want to check out one of those videos, I'll put a link up here somewhere, so check it out if that sounds interesting to you. C6 is a multi-band compressor. What's awesome about this is you get 2 independent bands in addition to all the bands that range from the bass frequencies all the way to the treble frequencies. So if you're working on vocals and you want to add some sparkle, you can just boost this top end here, and at the same time you can attenuate. Words seem so full to me when I just... So this gives you that nice breathy airy sound. And because we can lower the range here, we can attenuate it if it gets too bright. So this is basically just changing the tonality of the vocal so that it always tends to be a little bit brighter. Seems so full to me. And what I really like about C6 is that we have these independent bands that we can then move into the muddy region of the vocal, usually around 200 or 300 hertz. And that allows us to really target that range. And you can adjust the Q value, which is the width of the band. And then we can go in and pull that down. And so now we can selectively remove the mud out of the vocal. Check this out. Awesome. Let me bypass this so you can hear how much of a difference this is making on this vocal. When I just won't accept, wait a while till the end of the vocal now has this nice air to it, and it's not muddy at all. So this is the easiest way to get that modern vocal sound that everybody is going for. Hidden gem number 3 is H-Comp. Why do I like this compressor? I actually just did an extensive video on this, but it has so many cool features that I really don't see in a lot of other compressor plugins. The biggest one being that you can tempo sync your compressor to your music, which is incredible. You can either enter in your beats per minute here, or you could set it to host, and then it will pull the tempo information from your session. So if you have a bunch of tempo changes and you want your compressor to adapt to the rhythm of the song, you can just sync it to it, and it will automatically import that information and then provide that tempo synced compression. And you can adjust the note length of the compression right here. So if you want it to bob up and down on a quarter note, for example, you can do that. And I find that this sounds really nice on a master bus if you just gently hit it. It also has a wet, dry mix knob, so you can do parallel compression. And then it has these different analog settings. Basically, this first one is like a transformer or a tube saturation. The second and third settings are transistor and tube saturation based. I think they also add in a little bit of noise to model analog gear. If you don't want that noise, then you can just go to this fourth setting here, and it'll be totally clean. Another really cool feature is this punch knob. And then you also have your attack and release settings. And again, that release setting is tempo synced if you want it to be. All right, so let's just quickly dial this in for this vocal, but let's be aggressive so we can really hear the sound of this compressor. And then we can just change this mix knob to find the right middle ground so that it'll just help glue the vocal into this track.
Hey, oh, I just wish I could see that clearly. And why do all the words replace empty cabinet drawers?
This punch knob gives the vocal a nice little emphasis on the beginning of the syllables. So this is kind of a cool thing to have, especially if you want a more aggressive sound. And if you really want to emphasize that initial transient on a vocal, open up the attack a little bit more. That'll let those sounds come through and just bring a little bit more aggression. It also brings a little bit more air to the song as well. Okay, so then let's just set our mix, and we're all set.
I do all the words replace.
Done. There you have it.
Cabinet drawers, and why do?
It doesn't sound like there's compression going on, but it's thickening the vocal, giving it a little bit more sparkle and air, and a little bit more aggression, which is what this vocal track needed. All right, my fourth Waves hidden gem plugin is this crazy compressor called Kramer Pi. There's some magic that happens in it. I don't know, some saturation, something, but there's a very special way that you have to set this thing up to make it really sound amazing. I find that if you put this on a drum bus, it really just makes the drums come to life. So I have this on my drum shells bus. Let me just play the drums for you. So you can see I'm just doing a few dB of compression, but it really makes the drums have this awesome movement to them. So the trick to this plugin is to actually take this threshold knob and pull it basically all the way down so that you're at minus 24. And then you want to crank your output all the way up to plus 18. And I got this trick probably from like Joey Sturgis or something. I find that if you have a really fast decay time, and then also you do relatively high ratios here, like 3-to-1 or 5-to-1, it just really gets the drums moving. But because you're digging in so deep at the threshold and then you're boosting your output by plus 18, you need to make sure that your gain staging is set up correctly. So to properly do that, you either need to put a plugin before this Kramer Pi plugin, or if you use Cubase, you can simply just dial the gain, the pre-gain back, so that when the signal is fed into this compressor, it's only doing about 1 to 3 dB max on your drums. Now that's just a guideline. Your song might sound awesome if you do 20 dB of gain reduction. I don't know. In my experience, it seems to be in a sweet spot around 1 to 3 dB. So adjust your input gain so that it hits it just right. So let me show you what it's going to sound like. If you don't have that, it's going to be super loud. Here we go. Okay, so we have to dial this back. Keep dialing it back until we're at like 1 to 3 dB. Like right there. Perfect. But I use that compressor pretty much anytime I have hard-hitting, aggressive drums or I want to add a cool movement. Let's talk about my fifth hidden gem plugin by Waves. This one is called MV2. It is a compressor that does both upwards and downwards compression at the same time. It's kind of cool Very simple to use, super fast, and sounds awesome on bass guitar and vocals if you want to bring out more of the breathiness. I'll show you how to dial that in on both of those sources right now. All right, so here is my bass guitar that we have for this track. Sounds like this. And this is MV2. Basically, all you have to do is decide if you want to raise up the lowest, quietest parts of an audio track by bringing this slider up. And then if you want to do compression, you can think of this as a threshold setting to smash everything down below this. If you see this green bar, that tells you that you're adding that much gain to the signal. And then if we hit play, you'll see there'll be a red line here. That's how much compression you're doing downwards. Okay, so raising the signal up and compressing it at the same time. So it has a unique sound to it. And this is the reason why I use this on bass, because it does this unique upwards and downwards compression thing. Doing both of these simultaneously basically makes it so the bass performance is incredibly consistent. So if you have a long bass note and the bass player hits it a little bit off, it's going to decay and maybe you'll lose a lot of the sub-bass information that's there. What this plugin does is it will actually raise up the level as that bass note's decaying to keep it really, really thick and powerful the entire way through. Now, if you overdo this, you're never going to have a natural sounding decay to your bass guitar. But if you have, just a few dB, that kind of helps to basically gain ride the bass guitar so it stays consistent. It just really makes the bass sound full and powerful. So let me just show you how I would dial this in. So that's obviously way too much there. And then I just want to squeeze the top end down a little bit right here. Okay, let's gain match it. So especially this staccato part, you can hear that it's just making the bass guitar sound full the entire length of those down picks. Whereas without it, it kind of feels like the bass is kind of swelling in and out. Okay, so that's the entire reason why I love that plugin. All right, if we use MV2 on a vocal, it can help bring up some of the room ambience or make it sound a little bit more intimate. Okay, so if you maybe want to accentuate or make the breath sounds louder, you can raise up the low level part of this compressor and leave the high level alone, and that'll just wake up the track a little bit and make it sound a lot closer to the listener.
Hey, I just wish I could see that clearly. And why do although and
Let's gain match this.
do although replace empty cabinet drawers, and why do all the words seem so full to me?
So it has the effect of making the airiness of the vocal come out while at the same time not compressing the vocals down at all. All right, my 6 Waves Hidden Gem plugin is the linear multi-band compressor. And this one gets no love from anybody except me, but I want to show you how awesome this is if you have something that's just totally imbalanced, or if you're trying to balance out a song that you have in the mastering stage. This thing works awesome in both those cases. So let's try this out on a bass guitar that might sound a little muddy or boomy. You can hear the low end is not as clean as it needs to be. So what I tend to do, and every single time, because it just seems to always work, is I'll come into the presets and I literally choose multi-electro mastering. Okay, and then I'll set the gain to 0, because I don't really want to increase the gain at all. And then essentially, we just pull this range knob down. And you can use this master control knob to adjust all the bands simultaneously, so you don't have to come and individually move them. And we're just going to pull this down until the bass feels more balanced. Okay, check this out. Okay, so we pulled it down as far as it can go, and it's still not really biting the track just because the level is a little bit quieter. So then what we can do is grab the master threshold and pull that down. And then if we want to pull just this individual band down a little bit more to kind of tighten it up even further, we can just grab this threshold and pull that band down. Perfect. And you have independent attack and release settings for every single band. So if you want to add a little bit more clank, just open up your attack. Or if you want to smooth the bass out, you just pull that down so that it clamps down on those high frequencies right away. And let's give it a little before and after so you can hear it. So, I mean, it just polishes that bass up like crazy. It's so easy to use, and it's so fast. And you can literally do the exact same thing on the master bus. You can see I already have it on here. So here are the settings that I use. It's literally exactly what I showed you. And I've already pulled down the range all the way, but let me just show you what it sounds like if we play it all in context and what it does to the master. Just pulling that range knob down just gives this track a little bit more width, and then also makes it sound again more polished, right? We don't have those like sharp edges jumping out of the mix from those guitars. So just slide that range up and down, take a few dB when it gets too rough, and you're good to go. I literally call this plugin my insurance policy because it catches anything that I might have missed when I was mixing. All right, my seventh and final Waves Hidden Gem plugin is this one. I've talked about it in some videos before, but again, I tend to use this on a master bus, and this is how I'm able to achieve a really big width to a track without it sounding phasey or weird. And this is called Center by Waves. This plugin is deceptively simple looking. You have center channel volume and you have the sides volume. Now, it does a little bit more than just adjust the volume. It actually changes the EQ slightly to maintain a phantom stereo image. It just works. If you want to make your song sound a little bit wider, all you have to do is push this side volume up. What I suggest doing is pushing up until the sides feel like they got pulled in line with your center elements like your vocal. So listen to the cymbals, listen to the guitars as I raise up the sides, and then we'll find a spot where they sound like they're in line with the lead vocal, and it's going to add this beautiful width to this track. Here we go. So right here, they feel like they're getting in front too much, so we have to pull it back. This sounds pretty good to me, but let's bring in the vocals again. Cool, so right there, again, it just feels like everything's in line, so let's bypass it and check. Cool. Which one of these 7 Waves plugins did you think sounded the best to you? Was it the center plugin I just showed? Was it the C6? Was it the Debreath plugin? Let me know in the comments below. And if you thought I missed a really impressive Waves plugin, also let me know in the description what you're using on your songs. I want to remind you that I have my favorite free mixing and mastering plugins guide available for free download in the description. With that, I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today. My name is Bobby Balo. I'm the mixing and mastering engineer at Rayton Productions, and I hope to see you in another video.